Okay, so I'm going to show you how to make the standard curve. So to make the standard curve, you're going to use this compound called fluorescein, which is the product of the enzyme reaction that we're going to do. And it's marked with an F, and there's an F on the side too. When you're holding the tubes, try not to rub off the labels, because that's going to just make everything bad. Okay, so this is your 40 micromolar fluorescein. And for tube 5, for your standard curve, you're going to put 20 microliters of that 40 micromolar fluorescein in here. That's going to be tube 5. So tube 5 will have a concentration of 40. In the rest of the tubes, tubes 1 through 4, you're going to start with 20 microliters of dilution buffer. The dilution buffer is marked buff, and it has a B on the side, on the top there. So you're going to put 20 microliters of dilution buffer in each one of these. When you do it, make sure that you're looking at them. They should all have the same amount of liquid in them, because if they don't, you're not pipetting correctly. Okay, so then what you're going to do for tube 4 is you're also going to put 20 microliters of 40 micromolar fluorescein in here. So the total concentration in here, once you mix it up, the 20 of the buffer and the 20 of the 40 micromolar, the total concentration of tube 4 will be 20. But now you've got 40 microliters in there. So you can pipette up and down to mix it and take 20 out and put it into tube 3. So then you'd be adding 20 microliters of 20 micromolar to tube 3, but there's already 20 microliters of buffer. So if you mix that up and down, that will be 10. And then you're going to take 20 out of that and put it into tube 2. And that will be adding 20 microliters of 10 micromolar fluorescein. You're going to mix that up with the buffer that was already there, so it'll be 5. And then you do it again to make the 2.5. And if you want, you can take 20 microliters out of this and dump it so that they'll all be the same. They'll all have 20 microliters in them. They'll all be the same level, but they should all look, you should be able to see that they're less fluorescent as you go down. They should decrease in fluorescence by 2-fold. So this is what you're going to be comparing your reaction to. Okay, this is the basic reaction setup. So I'm going to go ahead and create a reaction tube. So you should have like a little cup or a paper cup or something to be able to dump trash in. So you see how I just put this on the table? That's not good form. You should have a little cup to dump that in. Okay, so I have a new tip and a new tube. What I'm going to do is put in 20 microliters of the 2x substrate. So 2x just means it's twice as concentrated as you need. So you're going to see that I have 2 sub, or some of them I've written 2x sub. And on the cap I wrote 2s. That means 2 times substrate. So I'm going to use 10 microliters of that, so I need to adjust my micropipetter. On the P20s, the last decimal place is the tenths place. So 10 microliters will actually look like 100 because it's really 10.0. So for mine, you can see it's 10, and then the 0 is in a different color, the last 0, so that's 10.0. So that's 10 microliters. So I'm going to take 10 microliters of this. So remember, I'm going to push to the first stop. I'm going to stick my tip in the liquid, pull up. That's 10 microliters there. Put my tube back in. This is my reaction vial. So that's my substrate. And I'm going to push and dispense the substrate in there. Okay. Now I'm going to be going into a different container, so I need to change tips. Anytime if in doubt, throw it out, man. If you're going to switch liquids, you need to switch tips. So now I need 10 microliters of the dilution buffer. And so remember, that one is the B, or buff. So I'm going to use 10 microliters of that. And I'm going to put that in my tube. You can see there's a tiny bit of liquid in there, and I'm just going to add it. I'm going to pipette up and down. mix it. I don't have anything in my tip. I throw my tip out, get a new tip, and now I'm going to adjust my micropipetter down. I'm going to get my timer ready on my phone. Actually, my stopwatch. And I'm going to set this to 5.0 because I'm going to need to add 5 microliters of the one-time concentrated enzyme. The enzyme, remember, is beta-galactosidase. And the substrate, remember, is a disaccharide that looks a little bit like lactose, but in the middle there's that fluorescein molecule that's going to be cleaved off so that it will fluoresce. Okay, so my enzyme, the enzyme is in this tiny little tube and it has an E on it. Now these tiny little tubes, it's really easy for the mark to come off because there's not any of that. There's not like a white rough patch that holds the ink. So if that comes off for you, before you give it to your partner, please remark it with a Sharpie for E. Okay, so this is your enzyme. Now once you add the enzyme, the reaction's going to start right away. So I want to get my timer ready. And I'm going to get my viewer ready. It's ready to go. I'm going to put my enzyme in the reaction, but I'm going to go ahead and pipette up and down to mix it, close it, start. Okay, so it's reacting. You can't see the fluorescent molecule in there, but if you put it in here, you'll be able to see it. And so I can say, okay, in 15 seconds it looks like tube 3 already. And so I'd write that down. And then in 30 seconds it looks like tube 4. And waiting for it to look like tube 5. It's not quite there. Okay, so I think it's about a minute before it looks like tube 5. So that's kind of what I'm getting. If you look right now, you can see it working. Okay, so you want to do that twice because the first time you do it, you know, you might not get the tube in there quite quick enough and you might not get accurate results or you might not have written it down or whatever. So do it twice so that you get a good feel for the rate. And so you should write down which tube it looks like, and then you go back here to know how much product you have. So if it looks like tube 2, you have 5 micromolar fluorescein, so that's the product, right? If it looks like tube 3, you have 10. Okay, so that's the standard reaction. I want you to do that a couple times so that you feel like you've got a good rate, like you know what the rate is. Because the rate is going to be the slope of that line, product versus time. Okay, then you're going to be doing you're going to be changing a variable. So there's several variables and you're going to be given one. You're going to be assigned one. So I just didn't have enough stuff to be able to give you all enough stuff to do whatever variable you want. So you're going to be in pairs. And so one pair of students will be given pH and temperature. So one person will vary pH, one person will vary temperature. Another pair is going to vary concentration. So one of the partner 1 will vary concentration of enzyme, and then partner 2 will vary concentration of substrate. And then there'll be another pair that will test 2 different inhibitors or potential inhibitors. So one's going to test sucrose as an inhibitor, as a possible inhibitor, and the other is going to test lactose, which is actually the actual substrate of the enzyme. So let me show you what those look like. So we've already gone through what everything in here is. So if you are the the inhibitor group, you're going to be given these tubes, and they're going to have sucrose and lactose in them. And if you have concentration of enzyme and concentration of substrate, you'll be given a 4x concentration of enzyme. That's 4 times concentrated, so you'll be able to dilute that. And you're already given 2x substrate, so you could use the 2x straight, then you could have 1x, and then you could dilute it from there to half x or 0.25x. And so with pH, you're going to be given a fairly dilute concentration of sodium hydroxide, so you're going to increase the pH by adding small amounts of this sodium hydroxide. I want you to be very careful with this. It can really be bad for your eyes, so I'm going to have this group, you're going to wear gloves when you're handling this and safety glasses. And then if you get any on your gloves, I want you to make sure you take care of that and wash them off, and be careful. This just, you don't want to get that in your eyes. If it gets on your hand or your skin, it's not a big deal. You just wash it off. Okay, so that's what you have. And then if you're doing temperature, you're going to need to have like a styrofoam cup and you're going to have a thermometer, and then you're going to change the temperature. So you're going to do several different temperatures. You can do different cold temperatures. That's easiest, with different amounts of ice. And then you could do some warm water baths as well in a styrofoam cup. So in that case, you're going to want to warm up your enzyme and substrate separately, and then add the enzyme to the substrate, and then have the reaction happening at that temperature, and then take readings really quick in the box, and then put it back, and then take it in the box, and then put it back. So that one you're going to have to do the 2 enzyme and the substrate separately for a little bit to get them warm or cold to the right temperature before you do the reaction. Okay.